Welcome to a new episode of your IGCSE Tutors. Today, I will be discussing this Cambridge IGCSE Economics Paper 2, Section A. Here are the questions. 1A. Calculate the percentage of Jordanian labor force employed in the secondary sector. So as we know in the economy, there are the main three sectors, including primary, secondary, and tertiary. So in order to find secondary sector, you need to use the 100% minus the one given in the data, which is primary sector percentage, and minus the tertiary sector percentage. So 100% minus 2% and minus 79%, you will get 19% for the percentage of labor employed in secondary sector. B. Identify two components of the current account of Jordan's balance of payments. So, as you know, current account, you need to refer to this formula. Current account balance equals to net trade in goods plus net trade in services plus net primary income plus net secondary income. So, in the data above, you can see that there are two components given, which is trade in services balance and primary income balance, which is all here, and here. Yeah. Question 1C. Explain the main type of unemployment experienced by Jordan in 2020. So this you need to refer to the text, which I already screenshotted here. The text says that lower total demand was the most important reason why the number of workers was greater than the number of jobs available. So this is the key point. Lower total demand means cyclical unemployment. So you write down this first and then you give an explanation. This is caused by a fall in total demand across many industries in the economy. So it is the most severe type of unemployment. The explanation of this, you can choose not to put because it's an extra info. Yeah, to be safe. Question D. Explain two advantages in the Jordanian economy may gain from the mergers between its tourism firms. Okay, again, refer to the text. So here it says that the mergers between the tourism firms have effectively reduced the prices of some holidays and raised their quality. So here they already give you the hints that you can write about. There are 2 points here, so you just need to list down the points and further elaborate it. So let's see how do we write it. Firstly, Jordanian firms can benefit from economies of scale. So you list down this is the key terms, and then you further explain. As the size of firms increases, they can produce more output. The average cost of production reduces. This allows firms to lower their price, which is linked to this, which may attract more tourists to visit Jordan, increasing export demand and improving current account deficit. Current account deficit is, the formula is X minus M. So if your export demand increases, your overall current account deficit will improve. So next, mergers of firms can combine skills and knowledge. This increases the quality of services and is able to increase the international competitiveness and stimulate economic growth. Again, you can export more because your quality is better, so foreign tourists, they will be more likely to be attracted to come to Jordan for holiday. So again, I'm using the exact same point that I've given in text, but you just need to further elaborate it by giving examples and explain the economic impact of this. Question E. Sadly, the graph has been removed by the CAIE due to some copyright reason. So I'll give you the general rules that we use for this kind of question. So for analyze relationship, usually we'll refer to a graph, right? So you can see the trend of the graph. So in your response, you need to include these three types, or these three steps. First one, you need to list down the relationship, whether it's a direct relationship or a negative relationship. So direct just means that when one factor increases, another factor will also increase, or vice versa. But negative just means that when one factor increases, another will reduces. So you need to first identify the trend. Step 2, you state the overall trend and list the most or the least data. So for example, there are graphs like they will have like something least. Maybe you need to mention the point here, and also the exception if there are any. Step 3, you need to analyze, which is give a reason for the trend or exception. So usually analyze, you can just give 1 point, but if the questions are slightly higher marks, is like 5 marks, then maybe you can give 2 reasons, 1 for the trend and 1 for the exception. If you need further explanation of how to do this question, you can refer to my previous video where there are real data that you can refer to. Question F. Analyze using a demand and supply diagram how an increase in population size will affect the market for clothing. For this kind of question, use your intuition. Increase in population size means there are increase in consumers, right? So naturally, the demand for clothing will increase. So what you need to do is to draw a demand and supply diagram where the demand shift rightwards. So this means demand increases. Usually you don't have to describe the graph because the 4 marks you'll gain from drawing and labeling the graph correctly, and the additional 1 mark is for the analysis. But if you want to describe the graph, it's also better. The initial demand is DO and the initial supply is SO. Due to the increase in population, the number of consumers increases. So the demand for clothing increases by shifting rightwards from DO to D1. So the entire answer, what will gain you a mark, is this analysis, which is here. Due to the increase in population, the number of consumer increases. This is the main part, the analysis. Question G. Discuss whether or not the Jordanian government should spend more on renewable energy. Again, refer to the text. So you can read, increase in population size puts pressure on the country's sources of energy. Greater reliance on renewable energy, including wind and solar power, can reduce environmental damage and is relatively cheap in the long run. So here are the 2 reasons. Here are 3 reasons that why the government should spend more on renewable energy. Moving on to the reasons why government should not. So however, most renewable energy generators are expensive to build. Wind turbines and solar panels rely on favorable weather conditions. So here are the 2 arguments that you can make for why the government should not spend more. Okay, so here are the 3 points that you can write. So normally I'll split into 2 paragraphs will do. First, non-renewable energy like fossil fuels will run out quickly. Hence, more renewable energy needs to be generated to reduce the dependency on non-renewable energy, meanwhile meeting the increasing demand for growing population. So here you can see how I link it to the text where I say that there's increase in the population size, and also I talk about the non-renewable energy, how it's unsustainable and we must reduce the dependency on it. Second point, renewable energy reduces environmental damage, so there's less external costs. Mind me, there's a small little mistake, so there's less external costs. This can reduce the extent of climate change and environmental pollution. So again, is further elaborating the point. Third, is an extra point. Electricity bill will also reduce in the long run, which lowers the cost of living. Moving on to why government should not spend more on renewable energy. First, renewable energy generators are expensive to build. This means that government may need to reduce expenditure in other important industries like healthcare to fund for this. This incurs the opportunity cost because the resources in the economy is limited. So when you want to invest more in one industry, you may need to sacrifice another industry, or else the government may need to increase its borrowing, which may lead to the increase in national debts. Okay, second part, many renewable energy sources rely on good weather conditions, which may not be a reliable main energy supply to the whole country. Okay, so here you can see that there are 5 points, but with the elaboration, it can easily help you to gain 6 marks. So for the bare minimum, you need to choose 3 out of 5 points to write here to help you gain the 6 marks. Moving on to H. Discuss whether or not the Jordanian Central Bank should have raised the rate of interest in 2021. Okay, let's see the text. Some of the spending by Jordanian government is financed by borrowing. Okay, the total demand was predicted to increase, and there will be a return to positive economic growth. A high interest rate might affect Jordan's foreign exchange rate and investment. So why you need to highlight? Because the text is already giving you some hint that on the points that you can further elaborate on. First, why the central bank should have raised the interest rate. First, more FDI will be attracted because the rate of return is higher. Or you can say because the rate of interest is higher. This helps increase funding for the renewable energy project. Again, linked to the question. Second, high interest rate makes borrowing costs more expensive, so consumers are less likely to purchase goods and services. As the total demand is expected to rise soon, the increase in interest rate can reduce the demand pull inflation, keeping inflation at a stable rate of 2%. Essentially, what it means here is that originally, the government already predict the demand will rise. So this may incur demand pull inflation. However, due to the expectation, the government can impose the central bank can impose the interest rate so that the consumers will be less likely to spend more. This is like, I wouldn't say it is like cancel out, but maybe it can reduce the impact of inflation, which I mentioned here, keeping inflation at a stable rate of 2%. Okay, moving on to why central bank should not raise the interest rate. First, higher interest rate makes borrowing costs higher, so firms and investors are less likely to borrow and invest in large projects. Hence, there's no new job opportunities. Unemployment may remain high and reduce the economic growth. Secondly, if the government raises the interest rate, this also means that they need to repay their debt at a higher rate. So this makes their borrowing costs, the government borrowing costs, more expensive. So how are they going to cover the increased part? So they need to find money from somewhere else, which is most probably from taxpayer money. They will need to increase tax rate. So this may cause repercussion. For example, people may go to protest because the tax is really high. So yeah, this is like politically unpopular, which is not good to do, because this will make the people in the country suffer more. So here's the end of a video. Thank you for watching and hope this video helps you a lot. Do comment down below if you have any past year papers that you want me to solve. And remember to like, share and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in the next video.